Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Carolyn Strauss. Carolyn has an amazing career in clothing. She was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. She's also a speaker, MC. She has a lot of experience in business. And as you will hear in this conversation, a lot of energy and great insights. Enjoy my conversation with Carolyn. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with a former CEO of a multi-million-dollar clothing company. She's also a podcaster. She's an MC. I don't know how many lives she has, but her life is extremely inspiring. And as you're going to hear, she's also a very engaging person, very funny person. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Carolyn Strauss. How are you?
I am great, Eric. Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun. It's so fun to go from doing my podcast where I'm responsible to playing with you on yours where I'm not responsible for anything. I love this.
Well, the thing is, I'm not responsible for anything either. No, I'm just kidding.
So we're just going to wing it and see how it goes. Is that how it works? I'm excited.
What I didn't mention as well is that you're a CSP, which is the highest certification that a speaker can get. We met because you came to speak at the Florida Speaker Association, and you mentioned something that as soon as you say the word, I was very interested about the cigar pack.
Yes.
So let's put a little ad for Ed Rigsby and all the friends in the cigar pack. What is the cigar pack before we start speaking about you?
Okay, so and I love that we met in Florida. I talked to you about the cigar peg. You are one of my favorite people because you hear something that resonates with you and you jump on it right away. I find that one of the most important things for business leaders is to actually take action and not put it off till later because things come on our plate. And if we don't act on them right now, I know that's true for me, as a former CEO, like I would hear about a million different things. And if I didn't act on the thing that landed for me right away, nothing happened. So tip number one is take action, take the first step immediately, like you did when we talked about the cigar peg. So reverse it, dial it back.
Yeah.
Here we go. Cigar peg. Pegs were professional education groups. The National Speakers Association that I've been a member of for more than 20 years used to have these specialized groups called pegs that you could join along with your membership where you could learn something specific. There was a humor peg. There was an education peg. And Ed Rigsby, our mutual friend, created the cigar peg. It was kind of for the rebels, which I can't imagine why I would join that, right? The rebels, the outcasts, the people who find that rules are for people who can't think for themselves. That's how I define it. So he started a group and it started out with mostly humor men, really funny guy speakers who would get together at the conferences for more than 20 years and go somewhere and smoke cigars and really get to know each other. Well, I was introduced to the cigar peg probably 16, 18 years ago. And I went and loved the people because they are fun and funny and interesting and irreverent and some of the smartest people I've ever met. And I joined the cigar peg right away. And the thing that's beautiful about it is philanthropy through fun. Almost all of the money raised in the cigar peg goes to charity. So I get to hang out with people who are brilliant, who I love, who I learn from. My partner on the podcast, Dale Irvin, on my podcast, Another Day Above Ground, which is the podcast for, by, and about baby boomers, the podcast for people who can't download a podcast. Anyway, it's a humor podcast. I met him at the cigar peg. In fact, I bought him. I always joke with him that I own him. No, I bought him because what he can do for someone's speech is add humor. He can add humor and he can add relevance. And
Absolutely.
He's so brilliant.
Yes.
That he and I became friends. And all these years later, for the past 3.5 years, we've been partners on a podcast. I mean, that is the beauty of Cigar Peg. And when I met you, I thought, you are someone who will love this group of people because you are all about giving back. You're all about charity. You're all about philanthropy, but you're also really smart and really funny.
Thank you. Wow. So I'm speechless. Thank you very much.
So somebody can go to cigarspeg.com and join if you want. Any of your listeners can join and then get on the calls with us, and you'll learn a lot, and mostly about the speaking business, but also about the business of business, I think.
Absolutely. So let's go back, rewind, that when you look at the movie, and we're going back to you being the CEO of the clothing company.
Yeah.
What's your story and how did you get into that?
Really? Does anybody care? All right. I'll tell you in a way that it actually makes sense. Okay. So when I graduated from college, and the day I graduated, I picked up and moved to New York City. I told my parents on graduation, I'm moving to New York. I lived on a couch for a couple of years, literally lived on a pull-out couch in an apartment, and I ate ramen noodles and shopped at the little Korean deli market on the corner because that's all I could afford. And I started modeling because I had done a little bit of plus size modeling when I was back in Boston, when I was in college. And then I moved to New York, and the plus size modeling industry was just starting out. And I was a perfect size 18, which is the woman's size for a 1X. It was the sample size, sample size in clothing for women, for average size women is a size 8. So all the clothes is made on a size 8 for average women. And then they are graded up or graded down from a size 8. Well, you can't take a size 8 and grade it up to a 16, 18, 20, 22, because proportionally, the shoulders will get too big and the sleeves will get too big and the garment will get too long, and it won't fit the rise in the shape of a woman's body. So they started fitting clothes on size 18s, and that was my size. So I went to New York, became a plus size model, and made a living as a model, which was fascinating. I mean, to be a size 18, weigh 205 pounds. By the way, I'll tell you how much I weigh. I won't tell you how old I am. But I am very strange for a woman, but I was a size 18. And then I created an exercise video. So I got injured doing step aerobics before I was 25, and I was doing step aerobics, and I have a slight scoliosis in my back. And I was doing step aerobics because I work out every day, and I hurt my back. So after that healed, I actually got certified as an aerobics instructor and personal trainer. And I thought, and I would watch all these exercise videos, like I would watch the Jane Fonda exercise videos and think, my body will never look like hers because it just won't, it still doesn't. So I thought, my face doesn't look like hers either until I find her plastic surgeon. So if any of your listeners know who her plastic surgeon is, please reach out and let me know, because, oh my God, she looks amazing. But anyway, I'm watching these exercise videos and I realized my body will never look like hers. Richard Simmons did his exercise videos at the time, if you remember him. Any of y'all remember him? I worked with him. That's a whole nother podcast. And then, as a model for him when he did his clothing line. So I decided to create an exercise video. Well, I created an exercise video. I spent all of my own money doing it. I shot it at a public access TV station in Baltimore, Maryland, because a friend of mine worked there. And all I had to do to use the TV studio and the 3 cameras was to let them air it publicly twice.
Wow.
So I said, okay. And I hired 2 models and I designed the leotards, and they were leotards at the time, that my backup exercisers, I call them my backup dancers, wore for the video. Well, I had a modeling client in New York at the time, and I said, look, why don't we sell the exercise video with exercise clothes? Because there are no good plus size exercise clothes. He made a connection with the Home Shopping Network. We went down there. We pitched the Home Shopping Network. We flew down to Tampa from New York. And they said, sorry, we don't do videos and we don't do exercise clothes. That's not going to work. So we got up to leave the meeting. Literally, we had a meeting with the vice president and the women's merchandise manager.
Mm-hmm.
And we got up to leave and they said, but wait a minute. We love you, they said to me, as a designer and a spokesperson. And they said to my partner, who was a client, we love you as a manufacturer. Why don't you guys put together a line of sportswear and we'll launch it in January? That was in 1997.
Wow.
And I said, okay. So we put together a line of sportswear. Now, everything sounds rosy and great and that everything worked great. No, we did this line of sportswear. It had fruit on it. It was gross. We did a whole line of really cute clothes that had animals. It was like I designed Garanimals. I do not know what the heck I was thinking. It was 1997. And I go on TV with the first collection. And we had one pair of nylon spandex, stretchy, like the Chico's kind of fabric. Chico's now, people would know of it. So I go on TV with it, and we had about 20 minutes on the air, and I hear in my ear, because you have an earpiece in, and I hear Carolyn clear the set. We're going to go to, a bumper of the HSN logo, clear the set. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking they made a mistake because I've got like 5 more pieces left and I've got a whole hour. And I hear Carolyn clear the set. And then I'm just still talking and I'm still doing my thing. And I hear in my ear, Carolyn, get out.
Ooh.
And I said, okay, thank you. And they go to bumper and they pull me off the set and they say, this is a disaster. These clothes aren't selling. You're done. I go in because I've now spent a year developing this. I go into the green room. I've spent, I have full hair and makeup on and I'm weeping. My partner's there with me and I'm going, okay, this is over. It's not going to happen. Okay, we're done. And I'm like, I feel like I've been punched in the stomach. I want to throw up. I mean, it was horrifying. Then they come in and they say, well, you've got another show in another hour on America's Store. And I'm now crying. My mascara is all over my face. And they're saying, you have to do another show in an hour because we have you booked on America's Store, which at the time, HSN had 2 networks. Now they've got like 10 with cable, but they had 2. And they had America's Store and they're like, you have to go on. So I had to pull myself back together, hardest thing I've ever done, and go back on TV and sell the stuff that I know is a disaster. Well, it was interesting because on America's Store, we actually got to that one pair of pull-on stretchy pants. And we sold them and they sold really, really well. So they pull me back off the air. I'm thinking my career on HSN is done. It was fun doing television. I had done a lot of television in the past. I had done tons of talk shows and stuff. I had been on Jerry Springer, but before it got weird. And Sally Jesse Raphael and Phil, what's his name? I had been on like everybody's show. But they said, but this pair of pants did really well. If you guys, and they said to me and my partner, if you guys want to go back and retool and do a collection based in this fabric, we'll bring you back, which was an opportunity that I don't know would have happened now. I think back in 1997, it happened because again, they liked me. And and it was, home shopping is all about the presentation, the pricing, and the product. And if you can get that 3-legged stool together, where you have a great presentation, great pricing, and great product, you can be successful there. So for any of your business leaders who want to do business on HSN or QVC or any of those, that's the 3-legged stool: presentation, pricing,
and
product.
That's what started the whole clothing business.
Yes. And so we went back on. And by the way, I only had one client. I only sold clothes to the Home Shopping Network for 18 years. I didn't do any other business. And we made a living. We did over $160 million in wholesale over the 18 years. And we, I don't know how much money we made for HSN. And I was there from 1997 to 2015. And our base fabric was always that nylon spandex, stretchy, pull on stuff. But I didn't say I make pull-on polyester clothing. That is not what I said. What I did, and this is what I teach my business owners when I do business consulting, is you've got to know, what do you do, who do you do it for, and why do they care? So everybody who worked for me knew that we made easy wear, easy care clothing for busy women, so that after they get dressed, they don't have to think about themselves for the rest of the day.
Nice.
That is what we did.
Very nice. And then 2015, what happened?
QVC and HSN merged. If you remember, there was a big merger, and corporate, the big powers that be, decided that they wanted to go all celebrity and name driven and brand name driven. And the way I describe it is, how like when you walk by a bakery and it's the beautiful wedding cakes and beautiful designed things in the window that pull you in. But where they actually make their money is on the bread, the rolls, and the bagels in the back of the store. I was a really good bagel. I was not a fancy wedding cake. I was a really good bagel and made them a lot of money over the years, but they decided that that was not the business that they
Mm.
wanted to be in. And that's okay. You know what? I had done it for 18 years. I don't know that I could have gotten any better at it. And that's always my thing. Can I keep getting better? You talked about the CSP at the beginning. My dad always told me, do anything you want to do in the world, but if you're going to do it, be the best you can be at it.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's why I got my CSP.
Awesome. So yeah, 2015, they merged. They said, okay, I love
say,
your,
okay,
your
bye.
comparison with the bagel and the wedding cake. What's going on in your mind at that moment? And what do you decide to do?
Well, I had been speaking the whole time. HSN was not a full-time job for me. So in the first 5, 6, 7 years of it, I was still modeling and I commentated fashion shows. From the time I was 25, I was commentating. I was the top, highest paid, plus size fashion show expert and fashion expert in the United States.
Wow.
So I knew everything there was to know about the plus size clothing fashion business. So I would go in and I was hired by all of the May Company stores and the Dillards and the Pennies and even Sears. And I did fashion shows for every major department store. I opened all the Nordstrom Encore departments over from 1997 till 2010. So I did fashion shows all around. And then one time I was doing a fashion show somewhere in the Midwest, I think it was Missouri, and this group of young women, college-aged plus-size women came to my show and said at a department store and said, do you do speaking, other speaking? And I said, sure. And they said, will you come to our college? We're in charge of the programming for our college. Will you come speak to us? And I said, sure. And I went and I spoke and it went great. And then I thought, okay, I can go speak.
Yeah.
And then I started speaking. And then I thought I only spoke to women. And then in 2008, I was at the National Speakers Association conference, and Vistage, a CEO mastermind group, I'm sure a lot of your listeners are familiar with Vistage or are Vistage members. They were one of the sponsors of NSA in only 2008. I went to the winter workshop. They said, hey, come do an audition for us. I walk in. They said, give us 3 minutes, your best material. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I do 3 minutes. I forget about it. It's at the end of the day. My makeup had been on since 8 a.m. I got the last slot in the day. It was 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm thinking this doesn't apply. I do my thing. I get a call from them a month later and they say, Carolyn, we loved your video. Some of the chairs want to book you for your, complimentary free ones, but we don't have your support materials. Kind of typical, Eric.
Which
sort of
support
like
material?
I said, what support materials? They're like, well, we don't have them. I said, what do you need from me? They're like, oh, we need a bio and we need a headshot. Sound familiar, Eric? We need a bio and we need a headshot and we want to work with you. And I said, I don't understand. And they're like, no, we love you. Come become a Vistage speaker.
Nice.
So I tailored my work. I met with one of the chairs who was really incredible to me. And he helped me take my program that was mostly designed for women business owners and make it apply to all business owners. And it's been, I've done over 200 presentations for them and I speak for all kinds of associations and stuff. And then during the pandemic, I turned to MC work because when everything went virtual, there is a different skill set from speaking on a stage to speaking on a camera.
Absolutely.
It is. And having my 18 years of on-camera live television work, and then having my 25 years of on-stage work, the MC stuff is the perfect space for me right now. So I'm speaking, I'm doing MC work, and that is my little story. How bored are you?
No, I'm not bored at all. I think it's very inspiring. I love the energy of what you're saying, and also the fact that whatever happens, you always find another path, which is actually building on your past experience. When you say that you spoke the first time when the student came to ask you, it triggered in my mind the first time I spoke in public, which I'll never forget. It was for ISEC student organization. We were in Tranum in the north of Denmark in 1988, and I had to speak about the development programs of the organization. And I knew very well what I was talking about, but I was so stressed in front of 180 students that for the time I spoke, I had no saliva in my mouth.
Yes.
And the lips was stuck here.
Yes.
And I keep putting it back. And at the end, I said, how was it? They said, well, it was very interesting, but what was it with your lips?
Yeah.
Oh, I was so stressed, but okay, never mind. So
wait, so one of my biggest ones was for Future Business Leaders of America, FBLA. And I had done a couple of little local ones, but then they hired me. It was in the late 80s. It must have been 88, 89, around the same time, Eric, even though I'm at least 49 years old. But because, we were just talking that my birthday was, this week and yours is next week. And it's pretty great. Anyway, so I spoke and I walked in and it was in an airplane hangar. I kid you not. There were over 5,000 people. The stage was ginormous, had the huge IMAX screen, the IMAX screens. It was huge. And I walked in the morning to do my sound check and walk the stage and everything. And it was great because all the lights were on. Turns out when I was actually speaking and the room was filled with 5,000 students, not only were the lights off and only the spotlights on me, so I couldn't see anything. And I was so young and so new in the business. I didn't have the wherewithal and the peace of mind, which I would do now, to say, excuse me, can I have the house lights up? Not only could I not see what was happening behind the first 3 rows, but the sound in 1/3 of the room, the speakers weren't working.
Oh,
and I didn't know. So there are people milling around and talking, and I'm hearing all of this noise during my presentation. And I'm thinking, what's going on? What's going on? But I was too young and inexperienced and afraid to say, hold on a second, something's not right. Can we turn on the house lights and that? So again, it's following your instincts and knowing when something's not right and speaking up. And as a business leader, when something's not right, don't hope it's going to get better. Speak up and get it fixed.
Totally. Love it. When you started doing the podcast with Dale, how did that come? And again, I've been speaking to a lot of people, there's a lot of podcasts and millions of podcasts, I think, the last years that have been created. Those who are listening now, thinking about starting their own podcast, can you take us through that journey? Because it's another thing that you're doing very well. How did the idea came about and how you preparing for the show?
Wow. Okay. So everything else I've talked about has made me money. The podcast does not, which is why I did not bring it up. I talked about doing it. Look, it's great on a resume, sort of like I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild. I've been a member of the Screen Actors Guild. I did my first commercial back when I was in my teens in Boston. And I've been a member of AFTRA, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, for my entire life, meaning that I've paid union dues my whole life. And if someday I'll book a movie and make my money back from that. But until then, it looks good on my resume, right? The member of the Screen Actors Guild, because it means that I can perform. It means that it's not going to be boring, hopefully, please God, that when I'm on stage or I'm on your camera or working with your company, that it will be entertaining. Well, the podcast is basically the same thing. How it came about is that Dale and I have known each other, like I said, for 16, 17 years through the Cigar Peg. He was already doing a podcast called The Kidders. And it was with his friend, Tim Slagle, who was our third partner, who is a comedian. He's called the Aristotle of comedy. He is absolutely brilliant. In fact, you'll hear him on the comedy channels. His name is Tim Slagle, Slagle. You can look him up. And he's amazing. He's super funny. And they were kind of winding down the Kidders. It wasn't going great, but Dale and Tim still wanted to do their podcast. And they needed a female point of view. They needed somebody who could keep up, who was funny in her own right. And they also needed someone who was politically leaning, probably a little different. Even though we never talk about politics on our program, we do. The point of view is what makes it interesting, right? So being more female, slightly more liberal, if I can say that, 100% believing.
What is the word you use right now?
I used a word that I believe everybody should have a choice for everything they do in their entire life. And anybody who doesn't believe that needs to make a different choice. Okay, so that's my point of view. I'm happy to share that, especially with what's going on politically right now in the world. I am happy to choose to believe that you're choosing to listen to this podcast. Smart choice. You could choose otherwise, but you made a smart choice. See, that was a choice. I believe everybody should
Right.
have a choice in everything they do. Anyway, so we brought me in and I met with Tim because he didn't know me from anybody. And we recorded a couple of episodes specifically on topics that would be interesting for baby boomers. And by the way, am I a baby boomer? I will never admit it, but potentially. And so
Aha.
potentially. So, I can bring that younger baby boomer or not point of view to the world. And it worked out. And our chemistry is really good. And we've got, between all of us, we have a lot of friends and a lot of connections that make really great guests.
So are you like preparing in advance the questions where you're going to talk about, or you just go in, there's a guest, there's a topic, and you chime in when you feel it?
It's all right. It varies. I would say most of the time, Dale and Tim, who are comedians, they are brilliant. Dale is the professional summarizer. He can hear anything and make it funny.
Yeah,
And it's what he
absolutely.
does. So they usually come in with some kind of an opening about what's happening in the world or something funny that they've heard. And then I jump off of what they say and
Got it.
come up with something funny. Because I'm more of I'm funny by accident. I'm more of a reactive funny person.
Mhm.
So, and then if we have a guest, we do a little bit of research, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, I'll admit, and, look at them and find something interesting about them. And then we talk about how what they do and what they know applies to our baby boomer audience. Our podcast is 25 to 30 minutes. We release one every Monday. You can go to anotherday.com, anotherdayaboveground.com and
Mhm.
listen. And, it's also on Spotify and Apple, on iTunes, and we record on Podbean. It's all good.
And now I understand how you work for HSN for 18 years now.
Why? Because I can sell anything to anybody. I can throw in, oh, by the way, so it's not about selling anything. It's about, okay, so when I wear this pair of pants, what's it going to do for me? When
Yeah.
I put on this shirt, when I wear this color, what does it do? So to say to your audience also, how you present yourself is super important. And I know we've gotten, especially post-COVID, we've gotten into this very casual, very not dressed up way of being in business. If you want to succeed in business without really trying, dress the part that you're going for.
No, that's very good advice again. I really liked what you said about the chemistry with the three of you. But you say all the other things make you money. Obviously, not necessarily the podcast you're doing. I recently was following a webinar on people doing podcasts, and I think it was very interesting point that the speaker made. It's basically, why are you doing this? And so I can tell you why I'm doing this, because I'm enjoying interviewing people. I'm enjoying sharing information, and I'm enjoying connecting people. So that's the perfect way to do that. And that's also a hobby somehow. I love providing value, but that's also another reason why I never look for sponsors. And it's just the thing I like doing and sharing the information. Now, I do know about people that have started and been consistent. That I think is also very important. Every Tuesday, I have an episode for the Business of Meaning podcast. We're now over 130 episodes. But the person that I've heard about, they've been doing this for 6, 7 years, if not more, and they have hundreds of thousands, millions of listeners. So I always say that Forrest Gump was Belgian because he said, life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get.
Yes.
So you never know what's going to lead you. And maybe it's not making your podcast is not making you money right now, but it's providing other opportunities. And also you enjoy doing it.
What it did for me, and I started working with the guys right before the pandemic. Thank God for another day above ground during the pandemic, because it gave me something that happened every week. We record every Monday at 1:30, and we each have our at-home studios. I'm in mine right now. And it kept me on the top of my game to play with people who are so much funnier than you are and are so smart and so aware of what's happening in the world. It made me stay super sharp. It made me stay razor sharp. I don't think if I hadn't had that every week, Eric, to force me to be on top of what's happening in the world and find something funny to say and show up professionally every week, I don't know if I would have stayed as sharp and as relevant as I feel that I need to be to serve my clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank God for it.
Karen, you have so much experience and various experiences. You've been a business owner, you're MC, a speaker, you're a podcaster. We are surely finally getting out of 2 crazy years.
Yes.
What do you see that has changed from 2 years ago? And what are your advices for business owners in our industry?
What I think has changed is that people don't know what's expected of them anymore. I think a lot of employees don't know, is it okay if I work from home? Is it okay if I go to work? If I do work from home, what are my metrics? What do I need to hit every week? I mean, in sales, that's easy, but in marketing and in research and in all of the other things that have to happen in a business, to be super clear now with your employees about how you work, how you want them to work, and what the expectations are of them. They always say, there was an article in Fast Company magazine. It was a huge article back in 2010. I'll never forget it. It had a smiley face on the front and it said, what makes employees happy? And it's knowing what's expected of them and it's rewarding them when they do a good job. I think those 2 things are even more important now, post-pandemic, if we're post, where we are now, than they were. I think the other thing that's really important is to have a really clear roadmap of where you're headed. I think having everybody be engaged in why they're playing with you, working / I call it playing, but why they're playing / working in your company, and what is it that you as a company provide to the world and why you instead of somebody else. I think when people feel engaged in something that matters in the world, even if it's installing floors, right? If you're the best in your regional area at installing floors and knowing what kind of company you are and why you do what you do, and everybody who works for you knows that you're the best at that and why you do it, they'll be more engaged. I feel, that whole quiet quitting thing, which people are talking about, it has been happening forever. This is not a new concept. It's just a new branding for it. But I think now getting your employees engaged is way more important even than it was in 2019.
I totally agree. And also people want to know what is their purpose?
Yes.
What are they doing? And not only getting better at what you do, but enjoying what you do and understanding why you're doing it.
Yeah, there's got to be some joy in work.
Yeah.
I mean, for everybody, if you're an accountant and you're in a cubicle, you've got to be somebody who loves numbers. If you don't love numbers, do not put somebody in a cubicle doing accounting who doesn't love the result of numbers. Totally. Find that out before you hire them.
Totally. Karen, I love your energy. I love all the examples you're giving. It's a lot of golden nuggets for everyone. So thank you so much. My last question for today, when we meet in 1 year time and we celebrate with a bottle of champagne, what are we going to celebrate?
First of all, still being another day above ground. That's first. I think we're going to celebrate doing a lot of good and having a lot of fun on the way. Those are my criteria. When somebody wants to hire me, am I going to be able to do good? Am I going to be able to provide value to whoever comes to hear me, listen to me, work with me? And am I going to enjoy working with them? So we're going to have a year of enjoyment and creating value and tikkun olam, making the world a better place than we found it.
Thank you so much. How do people get in touch with you?
You can go to carolynstrauss.com. That's CarolynStrauss.com. And everything about me is there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, Eric.
Carolyn, thank you for being on the show today and sharing all your great insights for business owners and a lot of energy. I truly love it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, please go on LinkedIn or join my Facebook group, www.eventbusinessformula.com/group. And if you enjoy this conversation, please share it with your network. Thank you. Bye-bye.